My intro's like all fucked up in this computer chat. I don't know why. I don't know. Every time I do it, it's really small. Why is it so small? Oh, now it's big. Here it goes. That's what we want. Why, if I do it here, though? One sec. Why is it small? Why is it, now it's big? I don't get it. Ah! I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out, chat. I had this problem when I was streaming earlier, too. It's like there's a bug in my OBS. I don't know why. What's up, folks? How's it going everywhere? What's up? New PC issues. I know. It's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. It did a thing. It was doing a thing previously where it was, oh, I don't have my stupid ducking on here, too. Oh. Can I fix that real quick? Jesus, we're really doing it live. Does that work? No, it does not. Maybe. I don't know, chat. Whatever. All right. Let's talk for a moment here about some new stuff that just came out. So we're gonna do some crazy things today. We're gonna dive a little bit. We're gonna put our hat on to become a culture war grifter, as they say. Something that I generally don't do on this channel because it's stupid and I think it's dumb and lame. But we had a couple weeks ago, we had a new release, the dumbest new release of all time. Maybe the fucking worst release we've ever seen ever in forever for Warhammer 40K. No, that's not true. They've released a number of things. They released the 10th edition Eldar Index. A couple of weeks ago, they released this Space Marine head sprue. The most, just a nothing burger of a drop. They're like, hey guys, give us $40 and we'll give you a selection of Space Marine heads. Cool, man. I don't want that. And to my knowledge, no one else wants that either. So why did we release this, folks? Check ratio in preloaded content. Are you giving me technical advice right now? Is this legit? How do I do that? Where is that, chat? I don't know what that means, but I would love to have it be fixed. There's so many check boxes and I haven't clicked on all of them. I will take a look at that after this stream. I think we'll do it afterwards. You heard 3 intros, but only see 1? Oh, really? What the fuck? I don't know. It's borked. It's because of I don't know, the new motherboard. But anyway, they released this dumb heads for the stupid. I never understood these releases. I to some extent, like generally speaking, I think kind of like just business escapes me. I don't understand how they make money on these. So like it probably costs you. It costs you a couple grand in sculpting, right, to build these. It probably costs you, I don't know, 10, 20K for your setup costs to construct these little things. You got to make a mold for them. Got to make an injection mold. Got to do a run. You got to make packaging for them. Obviously, it comes in a stock blister, but or a stock clamshell. But you have to like design and then print all of the insert materials and all this bullshit. And then they somehow make a profit on this. I don't get it. It blows my goddamn fucking mind that a single human being purchased this item. But that's neither here nor there. What people fixated on was, I believe... Can we zoom in this thing? Can we give it a little zoomy? It doesn't zoom. It zooms outwards. Bizarre. I believe it was these 2 heads. And they said, wait a minute. This one kind of looks like a girl. Which has immediately reignited the entire lady Space Marine debate. And it has that, and among other things, that wasn't the only thing that kind of like has sort of kicked off the age-old war between Warhammer lore people. That whether or not a lady should be a Space Marine. If we look through, there's a couple people commenting on it. not many, but I did see videos from some of the less scrupulous grifters within the lore YouTuber sphere, people who like to make money off of just yelling about lore stuff and how the new lore is bad or whatever. I guess they finally made female Space Marines canon because this head has high cheekbones. Okay, guys, I think we are maybe, my cat's currently opening all my drawers in my dresser. Great. I think we're probably stretching a little bit there, but anyway, I don't know. I mean, that's just me, I suppose. But I want to take this opportunity to talk about some of the other sort of larger lore battles that are currently ongoing. Now, I do want to make my own opinions clear before I get started. I don't really give a shit about female Space Marines. Obviously, I'm not hugely up on the lore of the game. This is mostly the outside looking in. But from the outside, all of these lore battles are they're a little funny. Because it is largely a fight over the most meaningless shit, but also they get huge, right? Like it becomes these massive channels, millions of subscribers, like beating each other up. From the competitive gameplay standpoint, first of all, there's a huge comment about how people who are coming into the game are tourists. They don't really enjoy the Warhammer hobby. I'm not sure if that's the case for people who play competitively, because I think those people are the most enfranchised in the game out of any of these grifters. So, first of all, y'all can check your privilege. But in addition, I think that the competitive community, despite any ill will or any vitriol between portions of the competitive community, it is a pale shade in comparison to the amount of hatred that gets spewed between different communities within the people who the lore enjoyers of the Warhammer fan base. It's insane. We can talk about, oh man, I think WTC terrain is slightly more balanced, than I think chapter approved terrain is more balanced. Oh, okay. That doesn't really matter. Ultimately, though, we'll just take more Vanguard veterans on our Space Marine list, I guess, if I'm playing WCC terrain versus something else. Or I don't know. I don't know if necessarily making this errata that changes the core rules is necessary for the balance of the game. We could probably just play core rules as written. Those are so those are gentlemanly disagreements when it comes to people on the lore side of the fan base who are threatening to murder each other over what it says in a codex somewhere. It's wild, dude. And so someone who does not really spend really almost any time at all on the lore of the game, it is it's mostly just funny to watch. Now, obviously, the whole thing with Space Marines being ladies or whatever that keeps popping up. I made a video years ago, I think, at this point on my second channel about what I felt about it. Generally, obviously, the lore currently says that only guys are Space Marines, and that's what it says. I don't know. That's just how it goes. I think that there are valid arguments against ladies being Space Marines from a narrative standpoint, in terms of the way that it kind of... it recontextualizes gender within the narrative of the universe. I think those are interesting discussions to have. Ultimately, I think what they probably should have done to nip all this in the bud is when they went, hey guys, we're making new Space Marines back in 7th edition. There's new Space Marines now. They could have just said, and ladies can be them. And then I think all this stuff, people would have gotten this all out of their system when they re-released Primera Space Marines. They didn't do that, though. And so the canon currently says that a lady cannot be a Space Marine.
Super chat. This is literally the intro to Flash Gets Space King video. Literally points out that in this ridiculous setting, that's what's preposterous.
Do they really do that? I don't really... Oh man, I'm gonna burn so many bridges right now. I don't really like Flash Gets. I thought that their original meme stuff was cool. It was kind of funny from a cringy standpoint. But I watched the original Space King video, and then at the end of the video, they did a whole they did a whole like section about how like Warhammer's not for boys anymore or something. And it really was like it was really sort of chody, and I was like, ooh, that's weird. I don't, I'm not sure if that's the sort of content that I'm super into. So I don't know. I guess I don't have anything against them in particular. And I have actually watched a couple of interviews that they did, which I thought were really fun. And I thought they were cool. They talked to, I think at one point about they did some Warhammer 40K like commentary stuff. Later on, they have a second channel where they do like a podcast. I caught a couple clips from that, and I thought they were pretty based. But they did a whole basically like an advertising campaign talking about how like Space King is grimdark for boys. I was like, I don't know, that's a maybe a step too far in my opinion. We can make a funny parody, but I don't know. Once we sort of like enter that arena, it gets a little bit weirder. You know what I mean? Play it just the intro. All right, we're on React. We're on the React channel mode today anyway, so we'll is it which one? Space King 3? Is that the one? 3 weeks ago. That must be it. Did they do an intro? This is 30 minutes long. I'm not gonna watch this whole thing. Is there a timestamp for it? That's it's pretty tongue-in-cheek. Yeah. It's my issue wasn't with the content actually itself. Like I think generally speaking, it was. Oh, let me turn my audio on here. Hold on 1 sec. Generally speaking, I think it's like good kind of critique of the over the topness of the grimdark setting, which I think is very appropriate, right? So I don't have an issue with the actual material, but they had sort of a their messaging around it was like kind of weird. I don't know. I wasn't super impressed. Let me grab the. Here we go. Is that working? Oh. Nope, it's not. There it goes. So they're all doing important stuff, and then they get called away.
Yes, my greatest creation is complete. A female psycho warrior. Wait, what are you doing?
Long ago, Space King, King of Space, disappeared, leaving us, his faithful psycho warriors, to pray for his return. Made in his image, gifted with flesh, armored in psychosis, blessed with purpose. We are the eternal crusaders of humanity. For as long as our globules survive, we will be reborn.
Was that it? Was that the thing, chat? All right. No girls allowed, I guess. Okay, fair enough, I suppose. I mean, I guess like the satire's there, right? It's like, who gives a shit? You know, at the end of the day, it's kind of it's arbitrary, right? It's totally arbitrary whether or not this is like that's allowed, right, in the lore. It's not allowed because it's there's a short. Okay, I'm coming in from the outside here. Apparently, I don't know any of this stuff. This one? Oh, I didn't look at it. Textbook example of a community not understanding satire, thinking it's unironically spaced on. Yeah, I mean, so it's. I think that there's shades to that.
You make for an amazing squad member.
Captain thinks you're better than me. I'm fucked, Terry.
What? What is this?
It's called my de-imaginator gun.
Brother!
It's hate longer versus women. This one? Oh, is this just the same? What we just watched? I think that's exactly what we just watched. I don't know, chat. It's in videos. Oh, this one. Oh, okay. There's a different one.
The globule check at the door. We must remain vigilant and ensure the icky oxygen thieves known as girls don't infiltrate and ruin our hallowed spaces.
Icky.
Which brings me to
They'll
the
bring
topic
cooties
of
with
today's
them.
sermon, the class of sub-hominids known as females.
Ugh, disgusting. Yucky.
Females, or girls, have a few distinct physiological differences from real humans. Firstly, no skin sacs for globule insertion, proving that Space King made them inferior on purpose. Secondly, they contain a pressurized nutrient reactor inside their stomachs that can grow new humans. How do the new humans get there, you ask? Well, I don't know. Now, why did Space King give us these creatures instead of endless boys? It's simple.
Endless
To tempt us
boys.
from his path as a test, which is why they have these boobies. Boobies are evil. We mustn't look at boobies. Boobies would take Space King and reshape it into their image if given the chance. How would they destroy Space King, Hate Monger? Excellent question, Hate Base. The same way they destroy everything. Commerce. This is how much, on average,
Based?
spend versus males. Is it any wonder that the greedy money grubbers in charge distort things you love to cater to them? Which is why we must sell untold lunchboxes and garments. But wouldn't that make us the greedy money grubbers? Yes, Hate Base, but for a good cause. Space Kid. Defense against the like space.
Is this a plug for their merch? It is. Amazing. All right. Fair enough, I guess. I mean, I guess, like, to some extent, right, this is sort of the heart of the issue, where it would eventually be a kind of a soulless commercial movement, right? If we were to try to make Warhammer 40,000 a more egalitarian setting, in as much as that we give equal, or more equal, I should say, showcase of male and female characters, then it would largely be right to expand the audience base and sell more miniatures and to make more money. And the transition is already occurring. And obviously, like, the IP as a whole is growing astronomically fast. So clearly, I mean, the movement is working. But this would essentially be the heart of the issue. And I think if that wasn't the case, right? If there wasn't any financial incentive whatsoever to bring new people into the game, it probably wouldn't be as much of a big deal as it was. But also on the flip side, and the reason that it's such a hot topic is that it is Space Marines, which basically outsell the entire rest of the game combined. And the problem is that it creates such a financial incentive for Games Workshop to spend more time on Space Marines in specific, who are explicitly only male, which means that you get less diversity within the model range and within the setting as a whole, right? There are more, novels written about Space Marines than literally everything else put together. So we're gonna get a majority
Chad
of like boring male
$5
characters.
through Super Chat. The issue isn't girls, it's the Kathleen Kennedys of the world getting their hands on it and nuking the franchise into the ground.
Yeah, so I understand that point as well, right? Where it's a kind of a the fear is that it's a watering down of the universe, I suppose, and that this is like one of the pillars along that line. But I don't think that that's as big of a danger as people give it credit. To speak frankly, so if we were to look at the more recent sort of multimedia appearances of 40K, it does not appear. I think I would be surprised if the general consensus among the 40K community, and as someone who doesn't really engage in the sides of the community, to whom this matters a lot, maybe someone could correct me, but Space Marine 2 feels to me like an incredibly well-received depiction of the rendition of the universe, right? I would say Darktide is also the same way, right? Where the more recent big-budget depictions of Warhammer 40K do not shy away from the fact that the entire setting is fucked, right? And I think that the fear that it's going to be like it's going to become a watered down Star Wars feels overblown to me, because it loses its USP essentially if it just becomes another sci-fi setting. And I think that that's very clear in the fact that it has these huge media projects that are releasing that are not that they don't pull punches. You know what I mean? I think I saw some criticism of the Tithes previously. I think the Tithes is another solid example of that. I think they're a little on the nose maybe, but every single one of them is about like how fucked the universe is, right? You're just like you're like locking psychers up in fucking like anti-psyker cages so you can feed them to the Emperor. You're like taking bullets away from some frontline soldiers to put them in a warehouse somewhere so everyone dies. And it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. It feels like if anything, they're leaning into that even harder. So I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily believe that to be a legitimate criticism. I understand the fear, but it doesn't seem to me like that's what's happening. Rogue Trader games like that too. I haven't played Rogue Trader yet, although I probably will at some point. So I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. I suppose we'll see, but that doesn't seem to me like it's the biggest thing. To encapsulate the I guess my opinions on it is like one of the reasons I wanted to do this little live stream is that I was reading through some of the arguments about this whole issue, and I think especially when it comes to content creators in the lore space, and there's a lot of criticism going around about the content creators who do create content about these like potential futures, and I know that there is a cabal of content creators, I guess, who are sort of pushing this narrative that within the lore of the game, there is space for things like female Space Marines to exist, to the point where it might even be sort of fringe canon at this point. There were, I believe, in Rogue Trader there were female Space Marines at the beginning, and that was decanonized like once it's a second, third edition. And like the argument is like that could still exist. I don't think that's the case. Obviously, I think that the lore says it's a boys' club only. But the issue I see is that Games Workshop is obviously very open to altering, to some extent, the previous lore, but also to updating future releases like they did with Primary Space Marines. And I think that there is an interesting discussion to be had of how that could happen realistically, like within the setting, and what the impacts would be were it to happen. And I think that's actually interesting content. What I don't think is obvious is the argument, which has been made by some people, that it is already canon and should already be considered canon. That's clearly incorrect. But there is a very vocal part of the community who feels that any discussion of that question whatsoever is basically like it's heretical and it immediately should sentence you to die, which is fucking pretty wild. So yeah. So anyway, what I wanted to talk about today, so this was all sparked by this fucking stupid, this dumb, terrible release. But I was in the period of this discussion of me looking at these things. I stumbled upon this video, and I want to talk about this video because it fascinated me. And I'm gonna commit a bit of a faux pas here, and I'm actually not going to show because I'm gonna go hard on this guy a little bit, and he's a very, very small content creator, and I don't really want to like throw him under the bus, so I'm gonna show parts of the video, but I'm not gonna share the channel name because I don't want to like come across
Ryan G
as a personal attack here.
$5 through super chat. Ahem. They're called Law Masters. Also, Halo Watch. The Halo show dropped out of the top 100 streamed after the first week on Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Like, nobody cares about that show. Which is fine. I think, I think it's good. If anything, it's a good thing the Halo show just died immediately because it does showcase that there is, like, not really an audience for that type of storytelling. Just a poorly written fucking phone-in of a show. If Warhammer shows like that, I don't know if it necessarily is the IP like destabilizing or whatever. I think it's just a bad show made by people who don't know what they're doing. So I don't know. So anyway, I saw this video. And I was fascinated by it because I feel like, so here's this guy. He's an extremely small content creator. He has sub 100 subs. He uploads a bunch of gameplay stuff, and he came out with this video, which has gotten, I don't know, a couple hundred views. About where he basically just rants about 40K for 20 minutes, and I was like, this is so interesting. YouTube does this thing, which is great, where it has basically a cutout of the For You page, where it basically showcases smaller creators. And I got served this one, and I was like, I'm curious. I'm so curious about this video. Now, I feel really bad for this man because he feels like he's a symptom of the problems that this like vehement adherence to this like these like cultural battle lines creates, and he's a victim of the content creators who grift off of it. And it feels really bad to me. So we're going to talk about this real quick.
They were just an excuse.
He gives a little bit of background to his
the minis and stuff like that. Now, I personally do not play the tabletop game. My Warhammer dabbling goes as far as I own a couple of books on my Kindle.
So he's describing his background.
To a few 40k YouTube channels like the Pontius and Marshall Beaumont. Sorry if I've pronounced that wrong, by the way.
He also credits Arch Warhammer, or Arch. It's not Arch Warhammer. I can't say that legally anymore. He credits Arch in his video description too. So for those who don't know, let's talk about these guys real quick. The Pontius is an interesting channel. I don't know if we'll have time to talk about his video. Let me pull up his channel real quick. I don't know if I'll have time to talk about his video recently, but he is he's like a culture war grifter of he's weirder than that, I guess. He's a little bit of a culture war grifter, but he's a self-proclaimed Warhammer lore master. Which if you have to self-proclaim that, it's an interesting thing to do. But he made this huge video, which got 170,000 views, prompted responses from several of the content creators that he calls out. And he directly calls out a bunch of content creators for being trash at 40K. Now, most of this video is just complaining about people talking about female Space Marines. Which, if we look through his recent videos, is interesting because he mostly breaks about I don't know, 20,000 views. But he made a video about female Space Marines and it almost hit 100, 77,000 views. So of course he goes through, and the natural extension of that is to make a video where you call out a bunch of other content creators, because then they do clapbacks, and then it generates an enormous amount of views and revenue. The online beef is incredibly lucrative as a business model. And of course, you focus a lot of it on what people's opinions about female Space Marines are, which is most of what this video is. Because that's the highest reporting video that you do on your channel. This guy feels to me like he is extremely, I don't know, he's very business motivated, which, in fairness, is working pretty well for him. Because if we take a peek, this man makes more money on Patreon alone than I do with all of my AdSense. Actually, I think that he makes close to what I do on Patreon alone from what I make on my entire YouTube channel. Not including external stuff like sponsorships and Patreon and stuff like that. But he for a relatively small creator, 30,000 subscribers, who averages 20 views a video, 20K views a video. This for context, his Patreon's 6 times as big as mine. So clearly, it's very lucrative to talk about this stuff. Not to mention the fact that he's obviously also making a little bit of AdSense money here. He only uploads like once or twice every couple of weeks or so and gets about 20K views, which is like fine. It's not good, but it's just about fine. So that's the kind of people that this guy over here, our friend, I'm gonna call him Ned. He seems like a Ned. I don't know if that's his name. I have no idea, but that's the kind of channel that this guy's been indoctrinated by, which feels so sad to me because he has all of these opinions. So we just talked about I believe that it might have been over here somewhere.
About 40K, and I was pretty blasé to a lot of the, including some more controversial ones. Like, for example, I know a lot of people don't like these, but aren't as bothered by them as they were when they first came out. It was the Primaris Marines.
I believe he talks about that he's been interested in the hobby for about a year. He's never purchased a miniature and doesn't play the tabletop game, which I think is the case for a lot of people who are fans. However, a lot of these people who tend to focus on Warhammer 40K from a cultural standpoint, right? The people who talk about, Lady Space Marines are bad and the lore is sacrosanct. There is a general trend that a lot of those people don't actually play the game.
Spider donated $1.99 through Super Chat. Pontius is in the chat.
Cool. Welcome in. How's it going? So the other thing is that... So he talks at length, and I don't want to go through the entire video here, but he talks at length about...
I don't have too hard of opinion on him. How
he doesn't appreciate Games Workshop's like most recent political leanings. He criticized them at one point for making a comment in support of 9/11, which I was like, that doesn't sound like a real thing that happened whatsoever. But he basically he goes through and he talks about how Games Workshop, the entire staff of Games Workshop, because of these recent lore changes.
A company like Disney or Amazon.
Yeah, here we go.
But we all know why they're doing this. We all know why they're,
the context of this is recent lore changes in order to kind of bring in a wider audience and open up, the community for more people, and either changing the lore or changing like sort of the what's the word? Changing the sort of tenor of the setting in order to be supportive of that.
Banning fan projects and why they're forcing the woke agenda on their fans.
The woke agenda.
Hate their fans.
No woke agenda.
They want to be bought
Can't
out
do that.
Become
That
this
would be
massive
bad.
company like Disney or Amazon. Get in a way.
We're gonna skip through a little bit here.
That basically being like they need to start communicating with each other. That's not gonna happen. Like last night, I bought the Dawn of War game, like the first Dawn of War, because I was watching Arch play Dawn of War, and now I've heard that they've done things like remove the word guns and muscle from.
So I did. I read an article about that, or I saw the headline of an article about that, but I actually did not realize it. So there was an old quote from the emperor, right? That was like, "These should be my mightiest warriors, like these men who I'm creating, or whatever." With the largest guns, I will arm them. And I think that they like recontextualize that, which in my opinion, that's a classic quote. If they change that, that sucks. Let me see if I can find something about that. Actually, I wanna see if I can find a source talking about this in particular. There's this guy talks about a lot of stuff that I think is from a lot of the content creators that he watches that feel like a little oh, it's part of the Nation No Fear thing. Yeah. That feel a little far-fetched, but we'll see. But I got like a YouTube headline about it or something. Oh, here we go. From Fandom Pulse, as they have made an article about it. Oh, I don't know. I don't know who Fandom Pulse is. We'll see. They removed the word men. Where? Where did this happen? In the way to pave the way forward for female space marines. Give me attention. Oh, good. And I can keep reading with a 7-day free trial. Well, I'm not going to do that. Where did this happen? Does anybody have a link for that or whatever? Because I have seen this referenced several times, but I don't know where it actually happened. It's in the most recent White Dwarf. Used to play collect paint miniatures when you first started. Don't like the feeling you have a differing view than the more progressive elements. They'll ban you. I mean, I guess I definitely understand that for sure. I think that there are degrees of differing views for sure, though. If you like have an appreciation for the old lore and stuff like that, I think that's totally fine. But there are some people within the sphere who unironically believe. Wish harm on people who are more recently, coming in or who have a more of an appreciation for sort of the more recent lore, and I think that that's obviously not okay. And we'll talk about what sort of the problems that are stemming from that in a second here. So it's in a White Dwarf, I guess. What did they change it to? Have yet to see one new fan. No, I don't mean new fans. I mean older people who are more established in the community, who want to gatekeep it from other people. There are people who really don't like those people. So like people who want to gatekeep the hobby, who are actively pushing, or calling for violence, which is obviously not okay. I see there's a Reddit thread about White Dwarf, and it has been deleted. So I don't know about this one. All right. Well, I can't find any of this, but anyway, I suppose that did happen. I just can't find the actual quote. I'm curious to see what they change it to, though, because it does feel like in a context of like it's like a military unit, right? It does feel like men is a pretty commonly used turn of phrase when referencing to like humans as manpower. You know what I mean? So that's interesting. I'm curious to see if it actually improved the sentence whatsoever. All right, so this guy, he's complaining about the
Muse
the woke
donated
agenda being
$5
inserted.
Australian dollars through Super Chat. Sorry but have to disagree. We want new people to come in to the existing game we have. Not chance the game we currently live to suit a new crowd.
Thank you for the super chat, Muzzbuzz. All right. So then he says this, which is curious to me. And this feels like, and this is why I feel so bad for this guy. He feels like someone he's recently come into the hobby, and he got in with this crowd of content creators who, instead of pushing positive content, are spending a lot of their energy taking time to engage in this this kind of cultural thing, right? And spew a lot of vitriol in that direction.
Fuck you.
So that was
basically, which is fucking bullshit.
So he talks about how
but essentially someone does need to buy Warhammer out.
He doesn't feel
Someone
that the
needs to buy
game
Warhammer,
should be
basically say,
like anything should change,
fuck
right,
you.
in order to
we're firing all of these departments. We do
make
that
it more
you do
inclusive
not
or whatever.
need. We're decanonizing the tithes, which is the codex.
He complains
that
about the
brought in
tithes. He calls it a
females.
codex, which is wrong. Obviously, it's a TV show.
Female custodians.
He doesn't participate in the tabletop game, obviously, and he doesn't seem to have much of a. He doesn't really know what a codex is. I think he talks about codexes and indexes like interchangeably a lot of times. Obviously, we can't hold it against him if he doesn't play the game.
We're bringing back some of the old lore. We're getting rid of some of this new lore that you've created. We're decanonizing female space marines. We're getting rid of this dog shit. And we're actually gonna make Warhammer for the fans again. Instead of for the fucking woke ideologues and the fucking idiots on Twitter who go, it needs to be more inclusive, but don't buy the models, don't buy the codexes, don't play the game, and don't give a shit. Because that's what you always find out is about these IPs. It happened to Star Wars, which I was a massive fan of, and I saw that get corroded in the fucking dust. I tried to get into Vampire the Masquerade.
I don't know about Star Wars getting corroded. Star Wars was the recipient of some phenomenally poor writing for sure. I don't know if it ever became more woke than quote unquote than it already was. But here's the heart of the issue, right? This guy wants to come in and he wants to sort of denigrate and fight against these people who are coming into the hobby, but don't actually care about the game or don't actually care about the setting. All they want to do is talk about this kind of like gender identity stuff. And I think that the point here is that the lack of introspection here is pretty fascinating because as we remember at the beginning of this video, this guy said very clearly,
over time I learned why people didn't like them and that they were just an excuse to dabble, play the tabletop game, minis and stuff like that. Now, I personally do not play the tabletop game.
okay,
My Warhammer...
all right, sure, all right, man. So what you don't want, the worst thing for 40K ever would be for the people who don't play the tabletop game or buy the miniatures to come in and then complain about gender identity stuff within the tabletop game. All right, pot. And honestly, this feels like it's an opinion being parroted from a lot of these people who are more interested in the game as commentary on, this kind of like culture war thing than they are in the actual game themselves. And those people, like a great talking point for those people would be the people who all they want to do is complain on social media about, how there's not a lady in the game or whatever. But they don't participate in the game. But I think that there are those people on both sides, and I think we're watching from the inside perspective. It's someone who is entirely enfranchised in 40K to the point where the gameplay of the tabletop game is literally my full-time job. This whole discussion, like if I go to a tournament, whether or not a Space Marine on the table has boobies or not, doesn't make a fucking difference to anyone who's there. I think like some people would have opinions about whether or not a Space Marine is a lady. But when it comes to playing the game and enjoying the hobby, like none of those people who are there it's going to change their experience whatsoever. And I think that it's so interesting to watch this like vehement battle happen between these people who aren't necessarily enfranchised in the core experience of the game itself. He also has this interesting bit to say, which I love, and it kind of extends my point here that unfortunately the like this double-edged sword cuts both ways
Disney,
a little
look at
bit.
Marvel, look at DC, look at Star Wars. That's never worked out well, and now Games Workshop is doing the same. And as someone who's already got into this last year, it really makes me fucking angry, because I don't want to look in a few years' time still being a fan of Warhammer, still loving the Blood Angels, playing the Dawn of War games, playing Space Marine 2 or 3, and then I go into my 6 millionth video, I go watch a 6 millionth video of Arch going, basically saying anyone who got into Warhammer after like 6th edition is a fucking casual wokest. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here wanting to learn about Warhammer, but I'm scared to ask questions about the lore because older fans are going to be like, well, are you actually a fan, or did you join after 10th edition?
Isn't that an interesting point, chat? As a new player in this community, I would love to become more involved, but I am scared of the people who are already more established in this community treating me like I'm not a fan. Wow. Wouldn't that be terrible if people were actively calling for that mentality to be widespread throughout the community? Wouldn't that simply restrict the people who can engage in this game, in the community, in the content? It's almost like gatekeeping isn't that great, actually. And if all we do as a community is complain about people who come in more recently instead of engaging with them, and having these discussions, it's almost like they would be better if we just included more people. Not necessarily saying that I think that the game or the universe should change in order to do that, but as a community, instead of battling and having these epic wars in comment sections, it's so interesting that we don't simply, just have these discussions with each other. And so this is why I don't necessarily want to spend a lot of time here, or I don't really want to throw this guy under the bus, because obviously I don't agree with a lot of his opinions. I think it seems to me like he's someone who has been very influenced by a lot of content creators that are kind of on the fringes of the community. But I feel really bad for him because it feels like he came in and he wants to enjoy and he wants to participate in the game or in the culture anyway. I guess not necessarily the game because he doesn't actually play it. However, it seems like the part of the community that he's been kind of inducted into are the ones that all they want to do is complain about all the things that are going on, and it makes him sad and angry, and that makes me sad because we are all only benefited by more people coming in and participating in the community and having this mentality about like new people coming in is so dangerous and it's so disastrous for everyone. So I don't know. I feel super sad. This guy makes me sad, to be honest. Because I watched this video and I was like, it's so interesting that he has very little self-awareness, because a lot of the things he says, he complains about people almost exactly like him, and then he complains about the people who he has been watching and whose opinions he's parroting. It's almost like those people are the problems that he's having. And as I mentioned before, it like sort of over here in the tabletop space, I don't see that we have these issues. Now, obviously, there are other issues, right? There are gameplay problems. There are, problems with local communities. There are problems with the inclusion of communities. There's problems with physically playing the game in some cases, right? It's expensive. It's time consuming, and it's certainly not for everyone. But I don't see nearly like the same level of this kind of gatekeeping mentality where new players are actively excluded, right, from the community. Because I think everybody realizes that if we don't get new players in, we have no new people to play. And especially since like 2020 or so, the number of new people who have come in and have started to compete competitively and have started to see success playing the game at a higher level is phenomenal. And I love the fact that we don't necessarily have these issues here, where new players are introduced, are inducted, and then meant to feel inferior to people who have been playing previously. But yeah, that's like largely what I wanted to talk about. That was the kind of inciting incident for this whole thing. Gatekeeping is cringe. I agree, chat. I agree. Can't wait till 40K is nothing but furries. Oh, bro. Dude, 40K is canonical cat girls. The call's coming from inside the house. We're already there. So anyway, chance. Changing the lore to the point where the setting isn't grimdark anymore matters a lot. Oh, I agree with that. But like I said at the beginning, I don't think that's. I guess in my opinion, I don't think that's the case. Obviously, I'm I guess not necessarily married to the setting as much as other people are. Like I will disclose my biases for sure. But I do think that, like I mentioned, I think 40K loses its unique selling point, its USP, right? If it's not a grimdark sort of setting. And while I do think that its portrayal on the tabletop has become more sanitized, I guess, as the editions have gone on, it doesn't feel to me like the setting necessarily has, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of the more recent media portrayals of the setting have leaned into the grim, the sort of the grimness and the darkness. I think Darktide's the perfect example, right? Darktide's a shit show when it comes to its presentation and storyline and everything like that. That game's very popular. Space Marine 2, I think, is a little. The Space Marine sort of like, kind of like IP or so. It's a little bit more mainstream. It's a little bit more sort of baseline, but I don't think that they shied away from the fact that the setting is grim and it is dark, and obviously those have both been successful. It doesn't feel to me like the things are going to wildly change. I don't know. Mark Strong, thank you to welcome to Early Access. Is it real Mark Strong from Space Marine 1? Mark Strong of Space Marine 1 fame? Dude, could you imagine? That'd be so sick. Anyway, chat. I think that's what I have to say. I don't know if we have any other topics for today. The lore existed before the war game. I don't think that's true. Is that true? I think Rogue Trader was I think the inception point for that had all the sort of core underpinnings. The two are sort of inextricably linked. Obviously, you could discuss whether or not Rogue Trader is technically a war game. It's like more of a role playing game or whatever. But I think to some extent it was just a more role playing oriented war game. And to be fair, basically that was the whole industry at that point, right? In the late 80s, early 90s, we didn't have we weren't playing in tournaments and stuff like that. Everything was very RPG centric. It's a chicken and the egg, yeah, for sure. Talk about how cool Necrons are. Idavol, what's up, dude? Nice to see you. Welcome. Congratulations on the GT dub from last weekend. It's always fun to see OBS and Phalanx go up. There's actually a really interesting discussion in the comment section. Maybe we could talk about that. Should I Warhamster Wednesday my own video? There was an interesting discussion in the comment section.
That was a major level.
Oops, where I just opened up my own video, and it kind of threw a little bit of shade at the format of the series, which I think is probably fair. Here we go. I found the video. I found the comment. Norn Emissary over here. Welcome in, Norn Emissary. Had this interesting discussion. This is just going to show that with the right strategy, you can win with your favorite units. No need for meta. I think this is obviously in context of, like, we saw OBS and Phalanx do well. We saw Subterranean Assault with fucking doubled Neuro Tyrant do well. And somebody else is like, I agree with the sentiment, but not the specific. The reason we see these videos is because most of the time it doesn't work. It just creates a survivorship bias, thinking non-meta works more than it actually does. I don't disagree. I actually have... And occasionally I will forget to post this, which I think I probably did this week. I have a selection criteria document on my paste bin for best armies in 40K videos. And here we go. Here's what this says. And that's just so, like, I get the question a lot of times. How come you didn't cover this list? How come you didn't cover whatever? It's like army selections are taken from events with public listings of placement, posting on Best Coast pairings. Typically, to be included, the event must include at least 20 players, play at least 5 rounds. Use the most recent Warhammer 40K update, codexes, and mission rules. So a lot of times I'll exclude stuff that, like, uses old, like, previous updates or whatever, right? Like, oh, we played, the codexes released it in the Munitorum, but we played the index, so I'll exclude those results. Results given... included on the metagame breakdown, achieve all wins with no draws. Special considerations are given to large events or events with non-standard placing systems. Armies that are typically showcased are the highest placing within their faction, placed in the largest events, or display unique list archetypes and list inclusions. I want to talk about cool lists, like lists that take all Hive Tyrants, which certainly creates a bias towards weird and silly lists, which I think if you were to sort of break down all of the results, for the most part, you would see a lot of, like, invasion fleets. The Tyranids had, I think, 3 undefeated results this weekend. You'd see a lot of invasion fleets. It's maybe more standard Subterranean Assault lists. But obviously, I chose the one that has a bunch of Neuro Tyrants in it, because that's, like, weird. And people want to see that. People aren't interested in seeing an Eldar war host with, 10 Fire Dragons or whatever, one another GT. Wow, what a shocker. But they do want to see it if it has an Avatar of Cain and, I don't know, 2 Fire Prisms or something. And it's such an interesting discussion, because I do think that it definitely overblows the success of things like an OBS and Phalanx Necron list. That's, like, probably very technical to play. You have to maintain all your auras at all times, and you have to be able to play into, you have to be able to play, like, the light vehicles correctly, know what profiles that you can expose them into, know when to hold up your -1 damage strats. But, like, obviously I'm going to showcase it because it's, like, cool and weird. So it was an interesting discussion to have. I read through this whole comment section, and I was like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. That actually does make a lot of sense. Just kind of fun. The meta isn't necessarily the most effective tactics available. It's what people think the most effective tactics are. That's 100% true. Yeah, that is actually for sure the case. It's so funny, too, because, like, the meta also gets influenced quite a bit by... it gets influenced so much by, like, logistical difficulties. Like, I think Recon Element Guard is such a good example. That army, and I don't want to take anything away from Nemo. Nemo's incredible at playing that army. He has hundreds of games under his belt with it. He's fucking insane. That army in particular is so... It's like... it's so strong. It's so fucking strong. If you know how to play it, right? You know, like, when to push and what matchups are your tough matchups and which ones you need to play aggressively versus play for endgame. I don't know how you lose with that list. Outside of getting, like, pretty wild stuff.
Ryan G donated $20 through Super Chat. A little confused. I don't think I've seen this ancient enemy pushing politics and wokeness at LGSs or tourneys. More than anything, I've seen people who don't play tabletop telling others why they shouldn't like the hobby.
That has been my experience as well, and that was kind of the point, I think, too, is that it's a lot of people who don't participate in the game but who want to, start arguments online, basically. And the people who play the game are like, it's like that. It's like, what's the meme where the it's just like a clueless guy in the corner, just like having a good time, and everyone else is arguing. And it feels like the tabletop community, the people who are enfranchised in the tabletop game, are just enjoying the gameplay, right? We're like, Warhammer. It's so funny too, because the narrative is currently that Games Workshop's it's fucked and 40K is ruined, and it's the worst it's ever been. And meanwhile, over here in the tabletop gaming space, we're like, dude, 10th edition's like legit really good. Like, what the fuck is going on? It's crazy. We're the amount of like improvements, mechanical improvements they've done to the game, make the game easier to play, more accessible to more people, like to newer players. It's It's incredible. I might have, and I think I keep wanting to do a video on this because I do think that there is a narrative right now that like 10th edition's like fucking trash or whatever. And I do agree, and I definitely don't agree with all of the design choices they made for 10th edition 40K. As I've talked before, I think that there is, and it started to change, but there's a bit of a lethality problem. There has been in the past. We talked to the stream earlier this morning about how AOC needs to get unnerved. He was like, brother, you don't remember how hard it was to kill a Land Raider at the beginning of edition. It was fucking impossible for 90% of armies in the game. And I think that there's a little bit of inflexibility in terms of your list construction. But other than that, like the breadth of the metagame, the amount of, I mean, look at this fucking Best Armies video, dude. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Like every faction won a GT this week. That's insane. Including several different Space Marine chapters. That's wild, dude. We have never seen a breadth of results like this in a balance of the game, literally ever. And so over here in Tabletop Gaming Land, we're all just like, dude, 10th edition 40K is fucking baller, bro. Everyone's having a great time over here. Tournaments are the biggest they've ever been. We've broken like multiple thousand people events this year. That's fucking insane. We had LVO in February and LGT both broke 1,000 players. That's enormous. And so like it is so funny to see the differences in opinion between people who are playing on tabletop versus people who are only interested in the other aspects of the game. If your opponent built his female Space Marine army, you're not going to look at it and tell them that they're wrong. Yeah, it's also like armies aren't like canon, right? I think that the thing that people get, and this goes to my point at the beginning, right? Is I think there's a very difference between saying having a Space Marine that's a lady is canon, right? Or here's why it's canon. And you're like, well, that's not really. It does say pretty explicitly that it's only guys. But if you're saying like, could I justify a headcanon or could I model an army, or is there a way it could become canon in the future? I think that's an interesting discussion to have. And I do think that that's the distinction that people tend to miss within that whole discussion, where a lot of people, right? In some cases, there are content creators saying, oh, but because Warhammer 40K is unreliable narrator and it's like the breadth of the universe is so large that maybe ladies are Space Marines. You're like, well, it doesn't say that though. So like, I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily the case. But having a discussion about it, I think, is interesting, an interesting topic. And at the same, to the same extent, I think that if somebody wants to model their army however the fuck they want, that's totally fine. We just watched Alex Fennell play several games of 40K over at Battle for Salvation. Let's look at this fucking army for a sec, chat. We want to go over and talk about this. Let's look at the BFS semifinals, folks. Alex Fennell was like, hey guys, I want to make a Necron army that's pretty. And you know what? He fucking did. He succeeded quite well with them. You love to see it, chat. Like obviously, I don't believe that there is a Sunshine and Butterflies Necron dynasty within the lore of the game. but I think it's a fun miniature. And I think that's cool. That's what's cool about miniature gaming. I said this before, I'll say it again. Here's the cool thing about miniature gaming is that it, very much like role-playing, it is player expression made manifest, essentially. You can it's not like a game of chess where you show up to the chessboard and your only expression is your movements on the table. You can determine which pieces you have in your army. You can determine what those pieces look like. You can determine exactly where to place them on the battlefield, right? Not just within a square, within a literal you have an infinity of choices every time you go to place a miniature on the table. That's fucking crazy. The level of player agency you have over a game of Warhammer 40K is unparalleled in basically any other form of media, right? Any other form of gameplay outside of maybe like tabletop RPGs, which to some extent Warhammer, like miniature games are an expression, like an evolution of. And so I think like that's what's so cool about it. You can do fucking anything you want in this game, and that's what's rad. Whether or not it's canon to the lore doesn't really matter. It's just it's a level of gameplay expression. Which vertical placement was more important? Yeah, it just gets mechanically difficult. I think we even had some situations arise in what's the word? Yeah, at TEO that we had to talk about it. TEO had multi-level terrain, which always gets mechanically complex. 40K could do it more easily. I've made several videos about how I think I wish that they've made the ruin rules. So I wish that they would change them to be a little bit more useful. But in some cases, it's like a whole thing. You can do anything you want except win games. For sure. Let kill team deal with verticality. Yeah. I think it definitely works better on a smaller scale for sure. I agree with that, 100%. Oh man. Well, chance. I have about 5 minutes before I have to go live stream this T5S2 finals. Don't forget, folks, we're going to be live on the Purple channel in about, 10, 15 minutes once that game gets scheduled, once that game gets lined up. We're going to be watching Deathwatch versus Tau, which I think will be interesting and fun. You guys are battling it out in the comment section. That's what I'm talking about. It's crazy. Lore people are wild, dude. I mean, it's like I could think about like the person I disagree with most in the world in terms of competitive play, and I bet if they and I got together and we like sat down and had a beer, we'd have a great fucking time. We have so much interesting stuff to talk about. We disagree on like one rule, and like all these lore people are like, "I kill you." It's wild, bro. Oh man. Yeah. All right, chads, let's go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and hop off. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today. I'm gonna be live on Twitch all the way through tomorrow. I believe I'm actually gonna try to be live tomorrow morning on YouTube. I've got a really cool thing going on with Warp Forge. If you are familiar, and I might do a little bit of live streaming on the channel to celebrate that. There's also going to be a video about them later on. Please go watch it. I know it's not my normal content, but it is fun, and it's like 5 minutes long, so I don't know, whatever. But we're doing a cool thing with Warp Forge, just that obviously I'll talk about tomorrow. So I'll probably be live on this channel tomorrow, and then obviously I'll be live basically for the rest of the week, all the way through with gameplay over on Twitch, as well as on Twitch in like 5 minutes, because I'm running late now. So cheers, everybody. Let's go ahead and hop off. Literally 3 minutes. Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna go ahead and hop off, and we're gonna go watch some 40K. Cheers, everyone. Keep it classy, folks. Have happy wargaming, and I'll see you in the next one. I still don't have an outro slide prepared, so I don't know. Here's my intro slide again, I guess.